Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode on the Happy Practice Playbook. I'm Mo Jones, and in each episode of the show, you'll hear conversations with dentists, office managers, staff, and specialists who know how to create a happy practice. Today, we're joined by Erika Pusillo, a practice optimizer at Spodak Dental Group. She leads a group of over 50 people in a single location, multi specialty practice. Hi, Erika. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate being on. And I kind of want to address the title that I have, Practice Optimizer, because I think for anybody listening in might just be like, what is that? That's kind of a common question that I get. And it really is a fancy name for office manager. But what I'd like to say is that sometimes the name office manager can have such a negative connotation. And I think for most of us out there, we wear so many different hats. When we share a common goal to make our practices better. So the idea of practice optimizer is that we're constantly looking to optimize our dental practices. And so that's where that title came from.
I love that. Honestly, when I was reading it and going over it, I was like, practice optimizer. That sounds like, a baddie right here. She knows what
Yeah,
she's
right.
doing.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Great. Well, we always start, of course, with our statistic for the show. So today's statistic is 83% of staff that use new front office technology say it's helped to grow their practice. How has new tech helped your practice?
So I like to think about me and in my own life first before we talk about our dental practices. Like in our lives, having access to technology, I mean, helps us be more productive and be more efficient. We can connect better with our family and our friends. And so it's the same thing within our practices. So we can connect better with our patients, connect better with our team, stay more attached and aligned. I mean, think about COVID and being able to utilize the virtual technology that we have. We can stay connected with patients virtually, also with our team members, and we can see faces, family, friends. But our practice utilizes technology to the max as much as we possibly can. We're a paperless tech office as well, so we like to utilize technology to minimize that consumption and make a difference within our environment. Also, I would say the biggest key factor in today's times is that hiring is really hard. Right, I think most dental practices are understaffed, and for the staff that is currently there, like we're just stretched to the max. I don't think if we say, hey, add something else to your plate, I think people might have a meltdown. I certainly in our practice as well. So technology has really helped us take some of that burden off of our team members while we're looking for additional team members, and sometimes can even replace potentially having to bring on another team member, because it's able to help us communicate with patients and to handle the day-to-day operations of the practice.
That's awesome. So one thing that came to my mind too. So when you're talking about personal tech in our own lives before you apply it to practice, how do you decide what tech to implement? Because I think, as well as in your personal and even just in the dental vertical, there's so much.
There's like a constant competition. I think there's also information overload, and sometimes with the information overload, people might just kind of tap out before they even start. And so the first thing is, know yourself and know your practice. I don't think that there is one size fits all when it comes to the different variations of technology out there. You have to know what's going to fit best with who you are, what you need. Start small. I think for me too is that if you're getting into or dabbling into technology or onboarding it, start with your biggest pain point. Get that flowing really well, and then go ahead and onboard and integrate additional technologies that will help you continue to be efficient or help with communication. But yeah, you have to know yourself. It's great that we have such access, let's say Facebook, Instagram, you can put out there, hey, anybody have recommendations for X, Y, and Z, which is great, but what works for someone might not necessarily work for yourself too. So yeah, know yourself, know what you need, do some research.
So once we're, excuse me, once we have picked some technology to implement into our practice, how do you go about getting your staff adjusted to that change, especially your staff members that are very much by the book? They're like, we don't need to change and add technology. We're good where we're at.
Yeah, so there's context to everything. So the very first thing that I like to address, I go back to the pain point of the hiring. So we are all stretched to the max. A lot of us are just trying to struggle keeping our head above the water. And when someone hears, "Hey, we're going to add whatever it happens to be, even if it's technology, and the point of that technology is to offload some of the burden," if they hear that word add, they're instantly going to think additional time, additional bandwidth, additional things that I'm going to have to do, and I just cannot take on anymore. And so they kind of have a shutdown. So I think the approach is going to be really key. Oftentimes we jump right into the what or the how when we bring things into our practices, and we forget the why. Okay, and why is the most important part of the whole buy-in process, because if they don't understand how it's going to be a win for me and a win for the practice and a win for the patients, I'm not going to do it because it sounds like extra work. So address the why. Also understand, get on their level. It is hard to take on additional things when you're short staffed, where you're stretched already. So trying to make it as easy as possible and as clear as possible up front. One of the doctors that I work alongside, he says, clarity is the number one key or indicator for people to have buy-in. So the more clear you are, the easier the transition is going to be. So, for instance, "Hey team, we understand we are stretched to the max and we're stretched thin, and you know what? We really want to help you have a better work experience." And so some of the ways that we're able to help problem solve that is by helping you guys with X, Y, and Z. Right? I'm not even talking about the product yet. I'm just saying you're stressed. I want you to have a better work experience. I don't want you to be stressed. And I've got some solutions, and those solutions are going to help in area A, B, and C. How does that sound? People are going to be like, "Hey, amazing," right? So then I'm going to say what it is that we're going to do, and then the how and how we're going to roll that out, which is going to be making sure that our team gets the training before we start it live. I think sometimes we get excited to just jump right in and say, "Hey, it's ready and let's get started," and we're having to learn on the spot. That really doesn't make for a really good, successful transition. So definitely have a little bit of a training plan, a little bit of a hand holding process for those that are a little bit more resistant to change, and then go live with that product.
So with that, introducing it to your team, have you found it better to introduce that training as a whole to the group, or sitting down individually with your people and giving training?
Yeah, I think it goes back to knowing your environment and understanding what's going to work best. So I have a large environment, a group of 50 people. So I usually like to, at one of our team meetings that we have monthly, let the team know why things are happening, what we're going to be doing. And then for those people that it's specifically going to impact, then we'll meet with them and we'll get the training. So if I'm implementing technology that's going to help our business team, I'm going to let the entire team know about it, but then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to address it just with those business team members. I think if you notice, like, we're all pretty intuitive, especially if you've been the office manager or practice leader for a while, you kind of know your people. And so if you're sensing or you're feeling somebody struggling a little bit, then that's an opportunity to say, "Hey, let me sit down and work on this one-on-one." I think people will appreciate it. I know that sometimes people can have a hesitation or or a reservation for asking for help, maybe for fear of being judged or fear of whatever it happens to be. If we recognize it and proactively offer the help, I think that it does allow for that team member to have a better experience in onboarding that technology.
So, in looking at your practice and the technology you guys have implemented, have all of those decisions in implementing that technology been on you, or have they come from the suggestions of your staff?
That's a great question. I would say a good mix of that. We have an environment where we like our team members to be involved and engaged. So we have lots of opportunities at our team meetings where we can talk about what are our pain points, what are some solutions. We have a lot of team members that like to listen to podcasts or like to go to continuing education. And so they might hear some really great things that we're not doing that could really help us out. So I would say it's a really good mix of team driven and myself driven. And it's amazing when it comes from your team, I will say, because when the team comes to you for it, the integration is so much smoother because they already have the buy-in, and it's already a green light and a go. So I actually prefer it to come from the team.
Well, and I would imagine too that in creating an environment where your staff can come and give suggestions in order to make their lives easier and their job more efficient, that it creates just a better overall work environment as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different experience levels, and being in different departments, we have different perspectives. And I think that if we just had one person making 100% of the decisions all the time, that we can really miss something. Um, Also, I think that one of the drivers for the cultural, what am I trying to say here, like generations that we have now, they're more so seeking making a difference, making a positive change, making an impact, and doing well and doing good. And the only way to have the opportunity to do that is to feel like you're involved, to be able to utilize your individual talents and strengths, ideas to have that difference. I mean, it's definitely purpose. Money's important, right? We all have a job in order to make money so we can survive, but there is a certain extent where having purpose almost supersedes money alone. So the more we do allow our team members to have that voice, to have thoughts, to have opinions, and to contribute, they're going to feel more fulfilled and successful. And, it actually makes everything so much better because sometimes they can see something that I may not see if I'm not in the clinic every single day.
So it sounds to me that in having your staff be active participants in not only implementing but suggesting new technology is going to be integral just to the overall success of the practice, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's really fun too. We also enjoy if say there's a pain point in the practice, and maybe our phone system right isn't reliable, or our phones go down in our area, whatever it happens to be. Then we can actually even shift that, put it back on the team to say, hey guys, this is the pain point that we've discussed in our meeting. Does anyone want to take this on as a project to do some research and to find out a better phone solution for us? And so inevitably you'll get a couple of people that want to be involved, which is great. And so now you've got your team to now research and recommend some products. And that's really fun. It allows you to be also proactive in going to them, because sometimes if you wait for them to come to you, they may not even realize that they're allowed to. Maybe they don't think they have a voice. And if you're one of those people that you have never specifically said it to your team, hey, it's okay, or I do want your opinion, or I do want your feedback, or I do want you to be involved, they might just assume that that's not business. There are a lot of businesses out there that want you to, basically sit down, shut up, do your job. And hey, that works for some people, totally fine with that. But if you don't say it specifically, hey team, I would love it if you had any ideas, or if you see things or you hear things on podcasts, bring them to me. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to use all of those, but I would love to hear your side, and I would love to have your perspective because it will help me make better decisions and make our practice a better work environment. So definitely really being very clear and direct to your team that it's okay to contribute. Yeah. Okay. No problem. It says recording on my end, so you're good. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think that, you know, when you're onboarding something for the first time, there are things that you just don't know that you don't even know. And so, for instance, we are actually in the process of going to be switching our patient management system. And that is a huge undertaking because it is like the heart of the entire practice. And this is the first time I've ever switched a patient management system because we've had it since the existence of the entire practice, only one system. So what I like to do is that once you've decided, hey, this technology is a fit for my practice, now you crowdsource. So now you say, hey guys, there's a lot of Facebook chats and things on Instagram and YouTube, but do your research and go out and say, hey, for the people that have already onboarded, what worked well? What were the hiccups? What happened that you didn't anticipate that maybe you can give me some advice, kind of thinking of what are all the things that could go wrong and trying to pre-plan in advance for those worst case scenarios. So let's say phone system again, we'll go through that. What if you're ready to roll over the phones and they don't roll over? What's the backup plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to get that information out to patients who are maybe trying to call and they're not able to get through? Like thinking about what's the contingency plans for things that don't go right. The other part of it is I will say 9 times out of 10, when you are onboarding new technology, you can test it before it goes live. So I will definitely say, please, please, please test it and test it as if you were the user. Okay. So if the user is your team member or the user is the patient, go through it as if you were that person so that you can make sure that everything that you had put into place is working as anticipated. So let's say there's an automated text message that comes through when a call goes to voicemail. You know, go ahead and call, have it go to voicemail. What does that text say? Does it have the right logo or does it have the generic one on there? Did you forget to add that? Or, are we good? What if double check your contact information, your phone number is correct, your address, some of the basic things that sometimes we just assume will carry over will be correct. We don't want to catch that live. So definitely go through, test it out before you go live, and then also crowdsource and say, hey, what are some things that I could potentially be missing? What were some mishaps so that I can avoid that for our practice? is absolutely right. And then you've lost the trust with your team to say this is an absolute disaster. And come the time for you to onboard something else, they're going to definitely have even more reservations than the first time. I would also say, since we talked a lot about communication, I think that technology is, if people aren't using technology at least to improve their patient communication, I mean, they're really missing out on a huge opportunity, like low lying fruit. Because think about it again, I relate it back to my own lives. I am working. Do not call me. I'm not going to answer the phone. Or if I don't recognize the number, I am for sure not answering the phone. And again, I'm at work. So I would totally feel guilty if I'm taking personal calls. So if I were to get a text message, you're more likely to get a response from me quicker, or at all, than if you were going to call me. And then, especially if people call and then leave a voicemail, I mean, how often in our personal lives do we actually look at voicemails and listen to them? Like, I don't. If I have a missed call and I see that I have a voicemail, like, I'm just calling you back. I'm not even, I'm skipping that whole step. That's extra time. Nobody has time for that. So, I think about, we don't have to, like, um, think so outside of the box for our practice. We just have to think about, if I was a patient at my own practice, how would I prefer to be communicated with, or to make appointments, or to get the things that I need to have done. So when you have it in that perspective, now again, you're making even better decisions for your practice and for your patients, because it's like based on real life needs. I'll also say that, with that, the communication side is that, let's say you switching over the phone system and you expect it to go live and it doesn't. So what do you have in place to get out there? Hey, connect with your website team and make sure they have a temporary banner that you can text. You can say, hey guys, on Monday we are starting our new phone system. I need you to be on call, because if it doesn't convert live, then I need you to have this banner on there so that it alerts anybody that's on there to say, hey, we're having technical issues with the phones. Please click here to contact us via email, so that they can at least still connect with you. Same thing with a Facebook or an Instagram message, some sort of public notification to say, hey, this is not typical technical difficulties. Here's how you can get a hold of us, and then we're ready to go. And so it just helps the business keep going while you're working out some of those kinks. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I know that a lot of the technology companies, especially in the beginning when you're onboarding, you've got that coach, you've got that person, or the implementer like yourself, the onboarder, who's going to be your number two, that is going to make sure that this is as seamless as possible. And so really leaning into them. Sometimes I feel like, again, like, I am in the position, I'm a practice leader, practice optimizer, and sometimes we almost feel like we have to do it ourselves because we're so used to doing things ourselves that we might not ask for help when help is actually really needed. So leaning into that support person, and making sure that they are, supporting you to the fullest extent versus assuming you've got it. That's why they're there. That's why they have that position. And I think the more you lean into them, the smoother everything will happen, because they have been through it multiple times. So chances are they actually already know what potential, pain points or, faults had happened to other practices that they can give you now in advance. And, even remembering to ask that question. So even your support person saying, hey, when you've onboarded this technology for other practices, what were some of those unforeseen things that happened? What were the unexpected events? Because now you can say, if that happens, although unlikely, I have my plan B or I have my plan C. Absolutely. And it is something we all do, and I even find myself catching myself doing this too. Okay, so back to the iWatch, smartwatch, the Samsung watch, whatever it is that you happen to have. If you're purchasing it, I think like sometimes most of us, we are, hey, done, ready, on to the next thing. We're kind of in a rush. Like we are just so conditioned because we get information fast. Like you think about even the way commercials, they're just quick, to the point, succinct. Text message, the most efficient, direct way to communicate, fast. So we are being conditioned to move quicker and to get information quicker. And so now we're in the store, transaction done, I'm out, and we skip the step of leaning into that support person that says, hey, you need me to help you sync it and set it up and show you the features. Or maybe you're getting a new car and the same thing, it's like, no, 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 I'll figure it out, it's self-explained, no, no, no. But you never do. And then you end up in those pain points to say you have technology that you're underutilizing, or it's frustrating because you really don't know how it works because you skipped the most important steps. So I think slowing down to speed up is really key, and it is actually counterintuitive these days, is to actually pause and say, I need to slow down and really have this well thought out, and to make sure that I understand it well enough to use it well enough. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, you know what? It's just like going back to those like simple basic things, like even in my own faults in my own life, like what are my pain points? I have definitely bought new technology, or got a new smart TV, and I get home and then I'm totally frustrated because I don't know where the button is to, get my Netflix or to set it up or to put my password in. I've got to speak into a remote and I don't know how, it's got like three buttons on it. And it's absolutely those moments where I'm like, shoot, I should have spent the extra 5 minutes and asked the guy, or taken advantage of, the woman that was trying to help me out. And I was totally like, oh, I got this. It's funny. Yeah. Yeah, it totally is. Me too. And I'm like, yeah. I'm sure if I understood it well enough that it would be totally more efficient, three buttons versus like, 50 buttons. But yeah, it just goes back to that concept again, even in our own practice, is like something can be the best thing ever, but it actually can be the worst thing if you don't know how to use it. And so, yeah, really, really taking the time to understand it and to train yourself and to train your team and to lean into your support people are going to be key. Anticipating what's going to go wrong, of course, and then understanding all of those whys. Like, what are we getting out of this? What problems is this going to solve? And when you go back to knowing yourself, or knowing what your practice needs as a way to make a better decision on which product to onboard, it's, there are so many companies out there that have such a long list of pluses or things that they can provide. Do you need all of it? Because it could be like that shiny car, it's like, oh my gosh, you got all the bells and whistles, but if you are going to use three of them, then maybe that's not the technology for you. You go with the technology that has the 3 to 5 things that you're going to utilize and utilize well. I think that a lot of times there are products out there that are, oh, you can customize it and you can design it and you can do blah 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 blah. Well, if I've never used technology like this before, I don't even know what to customize. So maybe the customized feature is not for me, and I'm going to look for something that has like a shell, a template, like a guide, so that then I can figure out as I'm utilizing it how I would like to customize it in the future. And so, you just again have to put yourself in the driver's seat to really understand, what do you need, and are you going to use everything that that service has to provide. Yeah, so we have a lot of team members. We have 7 general dentists and 3 multi specialists. We also have 7 dental hygienists, and then the rest is support team. We have 4 specific people in our call center. So if you can imagine 4 people answering the phones for practice 18 operatories seems like, how is that even possible? And well, technology makes it possible. So it's the way that we greet our patients through our phone system. It's the way that when they can't get connected, how are we reaching back out? Are they getting that text message? Are they getting that email? Are we getting back to them quickly? Do we have a chat bot on our website? So for us, the efficiency comes from not having to have so many people, especially when it's hard to find people these days. So that definitely helps us there. Also, it makes things faster. So it's so much faster to send text messages to confirm patients than it is to have to call and leave a message. So I can send 10 text messages, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, right? Send whatever message that I need to in the time that it takes me to make one phone call, listen for all of the rings, do the custom greeting. For the potential of that person, not the likelihood of them to answer that phone call live, very low. The likelihood of them listening to that voicemail, very low. The likelihood of them having to call back. Now, we are conditioning our patients on how we want them to do business with us. So if we have an issue with connecting with calls, we certainly don't want to drive more patients to making phone calls. We want to redirect them to text us or to email or to chatbot. So, whatever works for your practice, technology can help you drive that, but we're also conditioning and we're teaching our patients how we prefer to do business. So the efficiency really came from increasing the speed of our communication, making things faster, and having to have less physical people in office. We do have a couple of remote team members too, which actually helps. They manage all of the back end support. So, like the voicemails, the chatbots, the text messages. You don't have to be live in the office. So, it definitely opens our pool of people that we can choose from that maybe aren't in the area but have really great skill sets. So, we can tap into that market. Um, and that's really helped out. And we can only do that through technology by having them be able to tap into our system and utilize like a team viewer or, a total connect or a screen connect, those types of programs, virtual calls and, Zoom calls so we can stay connected and have meetings face to face. Again, obviously with the text messaging, that's going to improve that as well. And then taking advantage of things like, group projects and collaborating, say like Google Docs, where you can actually co-work on something and not have to be in the same room at the same time. That you can add your thoughts whenever you have the chance to, and that person can. And so we improve our efficiency and our time and our ability to collaborate that way. So we, like I said, we utilize it to the fullest. On the clinical side, with the technology where we're scanning patients. So scans are more accurate. We know that. Scans are faster and scans provide a better experience. Because if you've been one of those people that have had a goopy impression in your mouth, first of all, I'm a gagger. Like, I don't want that. Second of all, I don't know why dental products taste disgusting always. Like, I feel like somebody can come up with a solution for that. And then it hurts because the trays are just, they are. There's 3 different sizes, small, medium, large. We are all unique human beings. So, the chances of that actually fitting comfortably are like pretty poor. And so you think about all those pain points, gagging, disgusting taste, poor fitting tray, and you can really solve that on the patient experience side by having a scan that's fast, efficient, wickedly cool, and comfortable for the patient. So that's also win 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 in every definition of that. It's also really neat. It decreases people's time as well. So we have to think about, somebody can't take off from work. Like, I certainly couldn't take off for multiple visits in short amounts of time. So if it's difficult for me, it's probably difficult for a lot of other people as well. So having digital technology and the means of being able to do digital scans and crown and bridge digitally in office, it minimizes the number of visits that that patient has to return. And so we like to look at it in that way is when people want fast, we have to keep up with the speed of how they want business to be done. And technology helps us do that. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, knowing yourself, knowing what you need. And if you're not utilizing technology, implementing it slowly, starting with that onboarding, you know, uh, charts are paperless now. It is a rule, it is a thing. And so technology also helps us access that information so much faster and easier. And think about there's a reason why, paper charts can get lost in a fire and a flood. They can get lost by just misplacing them. And then think about how inefficient it is, especially if you have a big patient base, to have to go and to look through all these files to find it. How do I know? I have done that. I've been in dentistry now for 13 years, and back 13 years ago, we were in the process of converting from paper charts to digital fully. And so, yeah, there's efficiency that just comes from being able to find things faster. I mean, my gosh, Google, and now Google's not fast enough. You have to have Alexa Google for you. So, it's like that's what technology does is it just helps us keep up with the pace of life. Life is moving fast, and if you're not moving fast to keep up with it, now you're that person treading water trying to keep your head above it. Um, but yeah, you have to know what you need for your practice, and not all technology is a fit. Oh, I love this question. um, I think that, and I love the title, by the way, the Happy Practice Playbook. And so when I thought about that, it's like, well, how are we defining happy? And so Tony Robbins, I follow him. I love him. He's amazing, great motivational speaker, writes lots of books. If you don't know who he is, check him out. But he has a definition for happiness. And so happiness can be defined very simply, which is if your life expectations do not meet your life's reality, you're unhappy. Okay, so which means if I'm expecting things to go really smooth and they don't go smooth in real life, I'm unhappy. But if I expect it to go smooth and it actually goes smooth, I'm happy. And so it's just really breaking it down to the basics again is that happiness and success are really more basic than what we make it out to be. Um, we can either change our expectations or we can change our reality to get what we need it to be.